Good morning, MacLaren, and happy Burns Day. Burns Day, which you may or may not have heard of before, is a very special Scottish holiday. It's a day to celebrate the life of Robert Burns, Scottish nationalist poet, and it's a day to celebrate Scotland and Scottish culture itself. Robert Burns is a poet that we have read to some extent in the MacLaren curriculum. You may have run across his poem Ode to a Mouse in 6th grade, a poem in which the speaker finds a mouse nest in a field that he's accidentally run over with his plow, and he takes a moment to reflect on this mouse's condition and how it's not so dissimilar from the human condition. But Robert Burns not only wrote about mice and farming in the Scottish fields, he also wrote a lot about love and the mistakes and travesties that sometimes come along with love. He wrote just a lot about what it was to be human. He could empathize with a mouse, a horse, a louse, and draw parallels to the way that we live, the frailty of being a human and the beauty of being a human. So this is one of the reasons why he's Scotland's national poet. But the second reason that he's Scotland's national poet is that he made a tremendous addition to Scottish culture by preserving it. Throughout his career, he traveled across Scotland collecting poems, collecting stories, collecting songs that were written in the Scottish dialect and central to Scottish culture. Most of these had never been written down before, but had been passed by word of mouth from generation to generation. And Robert Burns decided to be the one to write them down. Sometimes he edited them, sometimes he added his own twist to them, but he preserved Scottish culture in a way it may not have been preserved otherwise. One of the songs that he preserved is Auld Lang Syne, which we sing on New Year's Eve. The story goes that he heard some Scottish man singing it and decided to write it down. He maybe tweaked it a bit, but regardless, it's still a piece of Scottish culture that was preserved. So this is another reason why we celebrate Burns Day. And because Burns and Robert Burns love Scottish culture so much, it's an excuse to celebrate all things Scottish. Sometimes on Burns Day, people hold dances with traditional Scottish dances, or bagpiping competitions. It's a day to dress in your kilt and to be proud of being Scottish if you're Scottish, to wear your tartan, to hold your Scottish head up with pride. It's also a day to eat a very traditional Scottish meal, haggis, neeps, and tatties. Some of you may have heard of haggis before. Some of you may have heard that it's kind of disgusting. I've actually had it. I think it's delicious when it's prepared correctly. So a haggis is created by taking a sheep's stomach, stuffing it with meat and other seasonings, wrapping it up, boiling it, and then serving it as the main entree to the meal. And traditionally, it's served alongside neeps and tatties, or turnips and mashed potatoes. So this is what a haggis looks like when it's in its sort of raw form. And traditionally, at a Burns Day meal, you would cut the haggis with a sword. This very ceremonial cutting of the haggis. But this is how I've eaten haggis on a little street in Edinburgh. Traditionally, they make it, there's many ways of eating haggis. This is a bit more aesthetic presentation of the haggis. But Robert Burns himself was not at all ashamed of the fact that a haggis, the traditional Scottish meal, looked kind of strange, was made in sort of a strange way, was very hearty, was not super pretty or dainty. He thought it was a great symbol for Scottish culture and the Scottish people, that they were created rough, that they were tough enough to survive in Scotland, that they were, warrior people. He thought he was proud of this fact. So he wrote a poem called Address to the Haggis, which is traditionally read before the ceremonial cutting of the haggis on Burns Day. Now, we did not decide to feed you haggis today. That was never an option. I promise we will not be partaking in that part of Burns Day. But I wanted to give you a chance to hear the Address to Haggis read by someone who can read it much better than I could. So in a moment, Mr. Kelly is going to come and read the Address to Haggis. Now, you may not be able to understand all of it. It is written in a very traditional Scottish dialect. So just listen to it, see how much of it you can pick up on. But I wanted to give you a sneak peek of how it ends. So in the last stanza of the poem, Robert Burns is talking about the Scottish people in general. He says, "You powers who made mankind your care and dish them out to their bill of fare, old Scotland wants no watery stuff that splashes in small wooden dishes, but if you wish her grateful prayer, give her a haggis." So that is a modernized version of the poem. It will not sound like that when you hear it. But no, that's basically the gist of the poem, is he's addressing the haggis, talking about how it's been through kind of a rough life to get from where it started to the table. And then he talks about how, you know, the French might snub their noses at something like a haggis, but the Scottish people don't want anything watery. They don't want anything watered down. They want something hearty because they're a hearty people. So enjoy Address to a Haggis.
An Address to Haggis by Robert Burns. Fair fie your honest, sonsy face, great chieftain o' the puddin' race. Aboon them you take your place, pinch, tripe or term. We'll harry a wordy o' a grace, as lang's me helm. The groaning trencher there you fill, your hardies like a distant hill. Your pin would help to mend a mill in time o' need, while through your pores the dews distill like amber bead. His knife, see rustic labour dight, and cut ye up wi' ready sleight, trenching your gushing entrails bright like ony ditch, and then, oh, what a glorious sight, warm, reeking, rich. Then, horn for horn, they stretch and strive, they'll take the hindmost, on they drive, till their wheel-swallowed kites believe are bent like drums. Then, old Goodman mayst like to rive, bethink it hums. Is there that o'er his French ragout, or olio that wad staw a sow, or fricassee wad mak her spew, wi' perfect scunner, looks down wi' sneering, scornful view on such a dinner? Poor devil, see him o'er his trash, as fickless as a withered rash, his spindle shank a good whiplash, his knave a nit, throw bloody flood or field to dash. Oh, how unfit! But mark the rustic haggis fed, the trembling earth resounds his tread, clapping his wheelie knave a bleed, he'll make it whistle, and legs and arms and head will sned like taps o' thistle. Ye powers will make mankind your care, and dish them out their bill of fare. Old Scotland wants nae skinking ware that japs in luggies, but if ye wish her grateful prayer, gie her haggis.